Hi folks, welcome back to, well, it's Wednesday today, so you're halfway through your week, which is absolutely fantastic. If you like what I do, get ready for some more Hobby Nightmares. The subscribe button is down below. I would like that to go up, please. That'd be absolutely awesome before the end of the year. If we can start making our way towards 11k subs, that would be amazing. We made 10k, which is something that I never thought would happen, and there is a thank you video on the way. I'm just trying to plan it out, what I want to do just now. But yeah, if you like what I do, then please hit the subscribe button, because it really does help me going forwards. And let's get on with some Hobby Nightmares, because we have a lot today. So, and a few of them have been written in very weird, strange ways, but, you know, it's all good. One of them, I'm fairly certain, is written in a poetic verse, but it's not really. It looks like it is when I got the email. Anyway, Sage Prime says, there isn't much of a following for 40k in my area, so when a friend of mine, a state over, said their local game was hosting a 750-point tournament last weekend, I jumped at the chance. Well, yeah, this is something that happens a lot, Sage, in that there are people who live in areas that aren't as well, shall we say, serviced by 40k, or Age of Sigmar, or any sort of tabletop role-playing, or tabletop wargaming. So when you do have these chances, you really do need to jump on them, but it's always horrible when a Hobby Nightmare comes from one of those places, because you know the person in question doesn't really have another choice. Like, this is the only thing they've got. I also really wanted to use my new Leagues of Votann models, so I reached out to the organisers of the tournament to be sure it'd be okay. Given the recent controversy, I wouldn't have been surprised if they said no. I'd have just brought my Tau army instead. To my delight, they said it'd be fine, since they just got nerfed. So I finished painting, packed my Space Dwarves, and after work on Friday, drove to my friend's house. Lovely. Rising Action. I love it. Like, this guy's actually separated it into actual how you teach stories, how you teach people how to write. That's pretty cool. So we've had our intro, and we have Rising Action. The morning of the tournament, things started out just fine. A small crowd of early risers and store staff were gathered, admiring each other's armies. Sisters, AdMech, GSC, and a couple of Space Marines. I sat my carry case down on the table, popped open, and pulled out my models. Most everybody remarked on my building and painting, as tradition dictates, including my friend, who's actually better at it than me. The attention was all well appreciated, and I returned it in kind. After a few minutes, the staff member asked if I had talked to the guys organising the event, since I wasn't a regular, or even a local for that matter. I said that I had, and they'd have approved of my list, and all was good. So, the horror. The tournament was to begin at 10 AM. About 5 minutes before, he entered. Now, I personally have never met someone who genuinely matched the neckbeard stereotype, but this guy had it all except a fedora. Ratty beard, deeply receded hairline, ponytail, about 150 pounds overweight, body over to kill an ox, and to top it all off, a My Little Pony t-shirt. Oh, Jesus Christ. Not good, not good, not good. I thought I was looking a meme or a Halloween costume straight in the face, but no such luck. He was the genuine article. He hurried to the table where everybody had set up their models, and began unboxing his. To his credit, his Drukhari were very well painted. Credit where credit is due. He then surveyed his opposing armies, with the occasional remark of, too easy, or fluffy list, and then his eyes fell upon mine, and he said, fucking meta chaser. I wasn't exactly insulted, but it was irritating since I've always preferred the building and painting side of the hobby to the wargaming table. I chose to just ignore it. A few minutes later, the two guys running the tournament got things moving. They displayed the tournament brackets, explained the game types for each round, and the additional rules. At 10:15, the first round started. I was up against the guy, the GSC. I don't know what a GSC is. I'll have to look up acronyms later. Thankfully, no horror here. The game went well with a final score of 42-36 in my favour. He and I shook hands and congratulated each other on the game well played. On to round 2. The climax. My opponent was him, the neckbeard. His words to me were, so, you're the meta chaser. So I retorted, yeah, I guess so. Let's see what my army can do, huh? As we deployed, he mumbled about my pioneers being the biggest problem. He focused the majority of his forces on the same flank I had my pioneers, where the rest of my army were going to go other. Sorry, it's not written this part really well. To the same flank I had my pioneers, whereas the rest of my army was going to other way. Again, translate if you can. I can't figure that sentence out. He focused the majority of his forces on the same flank I had my pioneers, whereas the rest of my army was going to other way. Okay, I'm guessing what you're saying is that he's put his army facing your pioneers to wipe them off the table, and the bulk of your forces are on the other side, right? Using it as like a hammer and anvil sort of a thing. Skipping to his second turn, he obliterated my pioneers mercilessly. They managed to kill nothing, but they did score me a few points on the objective. The rest of my army had entrenched itself on the opposite side of the table. I'll spare you the specifics, but through solid firepower, dwarf stubbornness, and some very lucky rolls, I managed to table him with the very last shot of my fourth turn. He was livid. He actually screamed, "You're a meta-chasing sack of shit, and you only won because you tricked me with your damn pioneers." And to be fair, he wasn't entirely wrong with that second one, but really, he tricked himself. Shortly thereafter, the two guys running the tournament came over and tried to calm him down, to no avail. They took him into the back, where he was shouting, where his shouting eventually subsided. Not really knowing what to do, I put models back on the display table, but not before taking a couple of pictures on the table, thinking it might be important, and watched the tail end of a game between Sisters and Admech. After the last few minutes had passed, the organisers and the Neckbeards stepped out of the back, and he looked like the cat had ate the canary, an evil grin ear to ear. I was worried. The two organisers collected the scores and moved up the brackets, where I did not move up. They then announced that they had made a mistake in allowing a banned army to play and that I was disqualified. I was floored, as were the people I had been talking to that morning. Skipping ahead, after some discussion with the organisers, they refused to undo their decision. I was out. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The end. The one silver lining was that the next guy the Neckbeard played was my friend who'd invited me. He had been looking forward to fighting my Leagues of Votan army, and that had been stolen from him. His demonette showed no mercy. My friend went on to win second overall, and he and I played a much more casual game later that day after a well-deserved lunch and a few drinks. I think I'm going to stick to more casual games from now on. Thanks for reading. Your videos are a very welcome distraction from my otherwise boring work day. Keep up the good work, sincerely, Sage. Well, thank you very much, Sage. Yeah, I really, really, really hate it when small dick energy gets its own way. I really do. I've come across it more recently than I would like to admit, but there we go. And yeah, it is annoying. It is horrible. The best thing to do, man, and I practice what I preach, is to cut it out and ignore it. Literally, say your piece, but say it towards your mate. I'm sure over that pint and a meal, that's when you talked about it to your mate, like saying, what the hell was that all about? You know, what's this guy's problem? Yeah, keep it to yourself, keep it in your own little circle, and then just let them get on with their lives, man. They will lose more people than they get, and they will end up playing on their own. They will literally just end up being completely on their own. And you know what? I have a funny feeling guys like this, they want it that way. They don't actually want other players. They want to put their army on the table and everybody to give them a round of applause for like 5 minutes straight, and then they just go home. That's what they want. They're not there for the game. They're not there to have a collaborative experience with other people. They're literally there to basically, how do I put it? Be the kid in the sandcastle. Be the kid in the sandbox who's like, I'm here, everyone look at me, everyone give me attention, and that's it, right? They're not actually interested in playing the game with you. So, you did the right thing. I know a lot of people listening to this will be like, what the hell, you didn't like fight your corner? Well, he did fight his corner. Like, he talked to the tournament organisers, and they said that to him. So they said, no ifs or buts, you're gone. So, at that point, yeah, you would be well within your rights to say, look, okay, fine, I'll accept that decision, but I'd like to stay here and watch my friend play, and I'd like you to actually know as well, I'm never coming back here after today. You know, you've really upset me, I'm never coming back here after today. I'm going to play a game with my friend afterwards, but you guys are done, because this is not fair. You know, and I wish you had proof of your exchange with the guys. Say, hang on, you said it was okay. You literally said it was okay right here. You said it was okay. And it was all fine until I beat this guy. Right? It was all fine until I beat this guy, and he browbeat you into getting me kicked out. Those guys in the store handled that extremely poorly. They should have kicked his ass out. They should have been like, okay, well, either accept the decision or be disqualified. Like that's that is what it is. Like, it's not even a decision. Like, you literally play the game and you lost. It's fine, And we're on the other side of that. You're there playing a game, and the guy has thrown his dummy out the pram and doesn't want to play anymore and wants to, like, go after you and so in a certain way. Then fine. Yeah, you know what? Just let him. Just walk away. Just walk away. There are people like that, man. He's obviously brought with him quite a powerful list that he thinks gonna wipe you off the table. It hasn't, and he then goes and gets you disqualified. Yeah, I would like to say that I haven't come across that in my life, but yeah, unfortunately I have. As some of you can attest. So, Forge Painter says, just wanted to give a little story from the painting side of the hobby and how doubts ruined my first armies, since this never seems to be addressed in the videos. Okay, cool. I'd like to say, I think it was addressed in like really early Hobby Nightmares on like discussions that I used to do. But anyway, I'd like to take the time to give some context to people who haven't dived into the perilous depths that is self-critiquing. Oh yeah, man, I'm there, right there with you. I think most people who are in the hobby will be with you when they read this or listen to this. Many people I see online get self-conscious if their armies are perfect or the quality they put into their work is good enough. I just have to say, most of these doubts have led to people restarting their army or giving up the hobby at times. I was just getting back into the hobby with the, at the time, recently released Sisters of Battle, the ornate details, the fabric pulling me into buying the initial launch box. At the time, I had no idea how to go about painting the models, grabbing a generic rattle primer and spraying away without a care than painting with unthinned paint. Oh, Jesus. After 3 or 4 Battle Sisters, I began to get worried about the details. My white paint coming out chalky and filling the wing symbols details. This caused me to stop and put the army in alcohol, stripping them down for the first time. The second attempt, I tried to paint the models red, using a different white primer that gave the models a horrible gritty texture. That killed me on the inside since I was completely unable to remove the primer with alcohol or simple green. I then did the dumbest thing possible. I used nail polish remover to remove the primer. The paint and the outer layer of plastic turning to a goopy, slimy mess. This completely ruined the $200 to $500 force and embarrassed me horribly. At the time, I started avoiding models like Sisters like a plague. I recently got into a commission to paint 6 Palatine Warsuits, the Sisters baby carriers, and found the trim and flourishes fun to paint. This was probably due to actually thinning paint. As a hobbyist that has been working on improving, I just have to say, do not ruin the fun of the hobby for yourself. And no, you can always paint over thin mistakes. Okay, cool. So, here's the thing, right? I've been guilty of this a few times as well, is that you get a new hobby, and you rush into it, and you think, I just want to go in, like, knee deep in this, and really throw myself into it. It's not... This is one of those hobbies where you have to take a step back. You really do need to take a step back and look at what you've bought, and go and research different colour schemes that you think you might like, and then go and look up tutorials on how to do those colour schemes. And for your first few models, stick to it religiously. What I would actually say is go and buy a really cheap set, or go to your local Games Workshop or hobby store. Most of them have introduction models that are literally just a Space Marine. I used to do them in GW all the time. There would be a big box of Primaris Marines, and it would be 1 Marine on 1 sprue. Literally, that's all it is. Go and ask, if you want to practice, go into any GW store and ask for something like that. That's on the painting intro table. 9 times out of 10 will give it to you and say, yeah, either take it home or get a tutorial here. That'd be a nice thing, like get an actual tutorial from somebody at Games Workshop. Now, I used to do that kind of thing. I know other managers used to do that kind of thing. I'm not sure what they do anymore. But yeah, go in and ask for an introductory model to have a practice at. And then practice the actual thing that you made, the colour scheme that you made on that model. Best thing to do, right? Spray or paint it. You do it like as if you're going to do an actual model for your army. And once it's done, you have a really cool look at just what the colour scheme's going to look like. That's what I would do anyway. And get something with large, flat surfaces too. Don't be getting, like, scathing and saying, oh, I'm going to paint it like a sister of battle. Not going to work, right? Like, that's why Space Marines work so well. Big, large, flat surfaces where you can see the light playing off different parts of the colours. That's what I would do. Anyway, thanks for your submission, man. That's pretty cool. Tucker says, Hi, North. I am on night shift currently, and so I've been thinking about a rather sad story that is hobby-related. So here goes. I had an old friend, I won't include his name, which was as much of a Warhammer fanatic as I was. His pile of shame was at least equal to mine. We met at our local gaming club back in 2010, and remained close friends from then on. Anyhow, we had both begun reading the Horus Heresy series of books when they had begun to be released. That was in, I think, 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And regularly had discussions about the greater lore, potential games in the near, mid, and far future, along regular skirmishes of Bolt Action, Star Wars X-Wing, and Armada, among other game systems. Anyhow, we discussed the possibility of a Great Crusade-era fleet getting lost in the warp, only to reappear in the 41st millennium. Yeah, you know what? I'm surprised so few people do that as an idea. That's an idea I've had for several, like, Space Marine chapters over the years, where they're literally Horus Heresy guys who just turn up in the 41st millennium, like, what? Like, like, shocked, like, what? We won, but we lost, and that was 10,000 years ago? What the hell is this? Like, why is everyone praying? Like, what? Did Lorgar win? So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Anyway, the fleet belonged to his chosen legion, the Emperor's Children, who had not turned to Chaos yet, as this was before the battle with the Leia, and the claiming of the Leia blade that would eventually corrupt Fulgrim. Okay, cool. Anyhow, at the same time, the Betrayal of Kelth box set just dropped. Ah, that's a good one. Isn't that the Mark IV one? I think it is, yeah, I love that box set. So we both went all in on our chosen legions. I quickly built and painted up a 13th Legion strike force, while he built up his 3rd Legion army. We also bought up a few boxes of the Burning of Prospero box set when it was released. Okay, so you got Mark III as well. We both began coming up with campaign ideas, using the old black books as templates and our experience with campaign play in 6th and 7th edition. We had gotten very much into a campaign where both forces were gradually building up to a crescendo of massed carnage and open treason. Only the traitors were yet to be decided. Heresy, I know. Just as we were about to reach this finale, he received news that would rock his world, and not in a good way. He had stage 3 cancer. Oh, man. Oh, Jesus. Let me just look up what stage 3 cancer is. I don't even want to tempt fate, man. I don't want to look it up on Google. Anyway. He was optimistic for the future, and tried to keep him upbeat and focusing on the future. Right, okay, so stage 3 is really bad, right? Stage 3 is like terminal. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to look at it on Google in case somebody comes across my PC or logs into my Google and goes like, "What? Are you all right?" Sort of when they read through it. Anyway, we moved games to his house, and more often as he grew very tired and ill a lot of the time. Yet he was determined to complete the campaign. We got to the last final confrontation, a massive 5,000 point aside game at Warhammer World. Super heavy tanks, elite squads, but no Primarchs. It was an absolute bloodbath, with little love lost between the sides in the end. At last the Emperor's Children won, but by their own merit. There was no handicapping my own decisions to ensure his victory, but just because he was quite unwell at the time. He wanted to win on his own terms, and he did so. It is one of my fondest times of wargaming that we shared. What he had not told me, though, is that his cancer, although controlled with countless rounds of chemo and radiotherapy, had unfortunately spread. He was now terminal, and was given at best a year, maybe 2. Oh, for God's sake. Oh, so stage 3 is it hasn't spread. Spreading's the bad one. Spreading's, yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's curtains. He did not make it that far. With his life insurance paid out, he was planning on buying the dream home for his wife and family. I even planned his man cave he had planned to have finished for his son, who also played with us regularly. At this time I started a new job, which meant less time for gaming and more time speaking via email and text. His voice had almost completely gone in the end. My experiences with him had kind of rekindled a desire to write within me, and I decided to begin penning a story. A story for another time if you wish to read it. Yeah, man, send it. Send it, definitely. I can't promise I'll read it out if it's not a hobby nightmare, but like if it's something that I really touches me, I might just do it as its own standalone video. With himself within the body of the work. I asked for his permission and he granted it, keenly proofreading my work and giving sound advice, especially on some short stories I was also writing. I enjoyed these interactions from afar, as he spent more and more time in hospital with sepsis-related illnesses and complications related to the Big C. I was keen to complete this body of work, all the while dealing with my wife's own pregnancy and the health issues that had faced us and our unborn child. For your information, she is a healthy 3-year-old now, but still requires further treatment. He urged me on, keeping me upbeat and positive, even when he was not. This guy sounds like an absolute warrior, man. Like, what a dude. What an absolute dude. Towards the end, I had not heard from my friend. After sending him the last section of the story, we reminisced about our games and the time we spent together, but he knew he did not have long. The last time I spoke with him was a week before my child was born. Our child was born on the day that he died. I was not told by his family until a week later, as we had spent every waking hour in the ICU with our baby daughter. I found out thanks to his son, who broke the news to me when I called to see how I was, since I had not heard from him, which was unusual. The grief of staying vigil at my daughter's bedside for months while she fought for her life, and not being able to grieve for one of my closest friends properly, not even at his funeral, finally hit me like a hammer a few weeks later. It was the lowest point for me emotionally and mentally. I had spent so long trying to be the bedrock not only for him, but for my wife and my extended family, who were all worried sick for my daughter's well-being. It all got to me in one go, and took a long time to be the bedrock of support for my family. Man, it sounds like you're kind of like ashamed of that, like you're holding some sort of grudge against yourself. You really shouldn't. You really shouldn't. Being that guy is exhausting. Like I'm trying to be empathetic here because it's just what I try and do. Like I look after my grandpa, right? And I have a daughter, and all those things. I can only imagine, and I know that being that rock for people, like being there for people, is exhausting, even at the best of times. Even at the best of times, it's exhausting. I can only imagine, and I need a break sometimes. There are times where I just say, hey, I go to my parents, I go to my mum's and say, hey, can you look after him for a day or two? I'm sodding off somewhere. I'm going to go boil my head. I'll be back in a day or two, right? And I'm always back like after a day because I feel bad anyway. And I need a break. So for you, going through everything that you're going through, and then all the stuff with your daughter as well, and being there for everybody, and let's be honest, you can't really have anyone to confide in about your friend because your daughter's really ill, so you can't go to your own family, you can't go to her family, you can't even go to your wife, really, because they're all looking out for the daughter, and they can't handle anything else right now. It's like you're being a burden to them if you go to them with this stuff. So you've had to hold it in to yourself, and you've broken. Because you should have. I'm not saying you've broken in a bad way. You should have broken months before this, man. You should have broken down ages before this. The fact that you held it together is a real testament to your character, and so extremely well done for that. Like I'm not sure I could have gone this long without putting my fist through a wall or acting out in some way. You know what I mean? Relying on drink or something. So you did a sterling job. So don't. I'm getting a sense here that you are feeling a bit guilty. Don't. There's nothing to feel guilty about. You literally, you needed a bit of time. After everybody was safe, what you did, everybody was going through a storm, right? You're there looking after everybody, making sure nobody's getting wet. And when you got to the cave, you needed 5 minutes to sit down and dry yourself off, because you were the only one who's wet. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't feel guilty for taking that 5 minutes to get yourself nice and dry again. Because, yeah, the others may be wet, but they would be a whole lot more drenched from the rain if you weren't there. So now you're back in the cave. Make sure you sit by the fire for a bit, get your strength back, because they're going to need you again. They're going to need you again. You're the dad. You're the rock. You're the main man in this daughter's life. They're going to need you again at some point, so make sure that you're ready for that, you know? Do some man shit. And doing some man shit sometimes means swallowing your pride, swallowing your guilt, and just taking a break. Switching your mind off, stepping back and taking a break. So, you did the right thing. He says, it did cause me to temporarily leave the hobby for some time, as I could not face painting or playing the game without thinking about him. Yet I knew that that was not what he would want. He would have wanted me to complete the writing, continue to fight for the Emperor, and to keep his character's namesake active in the hobby. So, for my custom chapter, he is Antonius Castor, not related to his actual name. A once proud chaplain of the Ultramarines chapter, mortally wounded by a Chaos champion who inextricably linked him, and sending this foul soul to the warp, he was turned into a relic Contemptor Dreadnought and given new life as Castor the Undying. Okay. The last survivor of a triumvirate of heroes from a lost age. He now is roused for battle whenever Chaos forces threaten the Imperium. Whenever I play Space Marines, that particular Dreadnought is always used, even if not for a strategic advantage. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I miss our time we spent together, but I do not look back with melancholy. I miss our experiences and shared interests, but those positive memories I hold dear. And whenever my own mental health struggles come about, I am filled with doubt, fear, or suffer a low mood and recurrent depressive symptoms, I think about his strength and kind nature. If he can face what he battled with courage and optimism, then it is not too much to try and do the same. Good lad. Sorry that was quite long, but I hope it speaks to you as the experience has left a mark within me. If you wish to share this online, feel free. Okay, yeah. I did wish to share it online. Brilliant stuff, man. And again, I've got nothing to add to that. You've literally hit the nail on the head. Like, you've used his strength to supplement your own and move on, which is an amazing thing to do. So, very, very, very well done. Well done. All right, Null Jaeger says, "Hey Exile, name's Null Jaeger. That's pronounced Null. I'm the big mechs from Pacific Rim. I'm glad I got that right. I've got a couple of stories. Most of them are a DM nightmare from Dark Heresy, and a couple of fun ones when I last played Tabletop 40k back in 5th or 6th edition. Okay, these are very short, so, you know, please forgive the brevity. But today I'll be regaling you with the tale of Confessor Dumbass, or Dumbass. The way he's spelled it, it looks like Dumbass, but it's like a dumbass. But Confessor Dumbass and his band of merry morons. This is the one and only time I've DM'd, Dungeon Mastered, despite trying to get some other games off the ground. I used to play Armour with an organised group, and had made a few friends, quote-unquote, that also enjoyed 40k and expressed interest in playing a Dark Heresy campaign, but nobody wanted to be the Dungeon Master. Little old me... Little did they know that I had been crafting a campaign in the background for a fair bit of time. A small Ordo Malleus outpost had gone dark on an agri-world near to the Maelstrom. Soon afterwards, the planet ceased communicating with the Administratum. Inquisitor Jaeger, my DM PC, player character, that I never actually got to use to give out new objectives, sent one of his investigatory teams to scope out the situation. An insane toaster boy seemingly infected with berserker scrap code, a psychopathic Kasserkin with PTSD triggered by anything at all, some arsehole brute force thief from Necromunda, and their leader, a confessor who preferred the tales that dead men tell. Everything was going fine until they went murder hobo and everything, which was about 60 seconds in. Spaceport staff who were to direct them to the local arbitres, more choppier than a power claw. Attempting to secure a vehicle to visit the arbitres, more Dakar than an entire war, although they did get a cargo 6, with many holes. Arbitres responding to a group of murderers, it went like OJ, basically, driving home. If any of you know for the early 90s, you know what he's talking about. With just a bit more ramming, murder, and gloves. Any hope of assistance from local forces after that? You'd be more likely to not get murder-fucked in perpetuity by the Drakari, and nobody thought to just whap out the Inquisitorial Rosette. Not once. Yeah, these guys sound like an absolute nightmare, dude. They don't want to roleplay, they want to fuck around, and that's fine, but, like, if this is a campaign I'm giving out, I would have, like, closed the book at this point. But, like, your second example there, I would have just closed the book. Like, alright, you don't want to play, let's just go and play 40k. If that's what you want to kill people, let's just go kill people. Let's do that. No hard feelings. Let's just go kill people. Because I feel like I'm wasting my time. Even with all that faffing about they did, I still managed to magically do enough idiot wrangling to get them to the outpost after much derailment by Murder Hobo. Yeah, I mean, again, I wouldn't have the energy, man. So congrats to you. Literally through warp magics, Eldar warp magics, putting a vision into the talkie toaster mech boy of all people. The Farseer and their warriors, who had foreseen their arrival at the outpost, greeted the team of murder hobos with some lasguns in the inner sanctum of the outpost, which was daubed with all sorts of unclean graffiti, just as planned. They didn't pay attention to that, though. No looking around, no attempts to even figure out what happened at all. Door, frag, clear by a volume of fire, reload, repeat. They started a firefight with the Eldar. By this point, 6 hours into a thoroughly derailed first session, I put a stop to the murder hobo adventures of Confessor Crackhead and his tweaker team. The Farseer decided to subdue them all mentally. Of course, I fudged the roll in an attempt to stop the madness. I gave them a speech telling them that if they had looked at what had transpired, they would see no Eldar weapons had caused the damage, that the marks were of the ruinous powers, that the Monkai before him were nothing short of cornate berserkers. Okay. At this point, Kasserkin asked me a question. Can they roll to break out? I say yes, knowing it may be a chance to kill the entire game there and then, because they'd already committed the ultimate sin about 2 hours ago, and I didn't even notice it. Opening games to play together whilst playing the campaign in the first damn session. Oh man, if this is online, screw these people. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. Like, I've had this happen once or twice before, and I've actually caught people when I've even been streaming games. I'm not going to mention the names, but I've caught people playing games on times when I've recorded and uploaded RPGs, and I haven't spoken to them about it at the time, but I have spoken to them about it in between sessions. It's not respectful of the DM's time, who's gone in and is putting all... Like, in any campaign, the DM is putting in at least 70% of the effort into keeping the game running, into being the world, essentially. If you can't respect that, and you're sitting there on your phone, or you're, God forbid, opening a game on Steam so they can fucking see that you're playing video games when you're trying to roleplay with this person, you go fuck yourself. Go find something else to do. Or leave the campaign if you think they're shit at what they're doing. Leave the campaign. Go do something else. But don't waste everybody's time and don't be rude. He rolls and actually makes it, barely. The bastard breaks out of the psychic shackles and attempts to put a hotshot round into the Farseer's back. As a hail of shurikens tears him to shreds. I gave no roll. I gave no mercy. I gave everybody an option after that. Listen, or be turned into husks only worthy of being servitors. I got the answer with a meh from the other three. So I quickly said, all your characters are now lobotomized, and you're a bunch of ungrateful dickheads, don't bother asking me to DM again. Good for you. Good for you. Exactly. Yeah. This should have happened about an hour ago, 2 hours ago. I honestly think I could have gotten a better game out of Lister, Rimmer, Cat, and fucking Holly from Red Dwarf. Thinking about the entire ordeal makes me feel like Queeg 500. To this day, I still have a rough idea of the campaign in my head, while the notes are long in the bin. And I wonder how it would have turned out if it were played by people who would appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful week, and that everyone watching this does too. Much love from my fellow Scout Smeghead and all. Cheers, man. Cheers, man. Thank you very much. Alright, so, finally we have Feel No Pain, No Work. He says, Hi, Northern. This is a brief synopsis, and obviously, if wanted, I can elaborate on the details, but I just needed to tell someone something. Okay, cool. I have been a 40k fan since the Fire Warrior PC game. I started collecting my Custodes and shifted to Crimson Fists, as I was lucky enough to have friends that play Tyranid/Tau and Death Guard. Alright. I played for fun against power gamers, and slowly they shifted to playing semi-competitive as a compromise. I cherish the memories of killing a Trigon in Overwatch by a single Eradicator, my friend's Death Guard Psyker constantly killing himself in the Psychic phase, and just how quickly my friend's Tau could delete my Blade Guard in a single turn. This hobby has always been important to me, but recently life has gotten in the way. I am still in the community and trying to get into a UC. Yes, I'm American. Okay, no worries. To do this, I did a student gov and speech debate. Recently, I had been at a very large tournament and found myself using 40k as source material in my speech sections since I liked the lore and literally everything in the lore can be used as an interpretation. Yes, it can. Seeing as how... That was me saying yes, it can. He didn't just put that in there himself, like Kurt Angle or something. Seeing as no one has used this material for better or for worse, I used Warhammer to win rounds for my team. We were voted the best community in the tournament, competing with other second years and UCE/private 4 years, plus the military schools. To say I was riding high would be an understatement. I had decided to indulge in some hedonism and turn my brain off by listening to some Emperor's Children lore to celebrate on the way home. That's when everything seemed to go to shit. My teammates had interrupted and expressed to me that some Title IX concerns on the way home. Title IX concerns. What's Title IX? Title IX concerns? Okay, Title IX requires schools to adopt and publish grievance procedures for students to file complaints of sexual discrimination, including complaints of sexual harassment or sexual violence. Yeah, I shouldn't have Googled that. But there we go, never mind. Yeah, as an educator, I probably shouldn't have Googled that. Could you please have just told me what that means on the way home? A certain individual, who shall remain nameless, had become a problem. I had always known that the person to be a bad apple, but not that bad. I found out he had been using his power over others as being an exclusive executive on the board of student body to harass women and even some of the men, such as sexual comments/insults/stalking, and even telling others to trade sexual favours for safety. I don't know if it was the Emperor's Children lore that made the gravity of such acts even heavier, or the stress I had undergone during the tournament, but something snapped. I decided to gaslight him publicly during our next meeting with help to really get my point across, which I'd done publicly in a room full of the whole student body, government, and the proctors, resigning from government afterwards. I then immediately left with my speech to report this to the dean, who then sat me down, and I told him every detail I knew. This happened today, so I will update you on the situation as it develops if you want. Yeah, please do. That's crazy. To say this was draining was an understatement. I decided I needed to spend some time with my 40k friends. I explained the situation, to which he had called me crazy, but we just started talking about 40k to help ease the tension. To which I was later called batshit for choosing to play Crimson Fists, Word Bearers, Blood Axes, and Craftworld Iliad if given the chance. People often get wrapped up in the hobby's negatives, but they fail to see the truly good positives. The fact 40k has been such an integral outlet that allowed me and my friend group to drop the weight of the world off of our shoulders is a testament to how amazing a franchise of 40k it actually is. Not everything GW does is right, but at the very least they created something irrelevant to the boundaries or borders that anybody could truly enjoy and identify with, especially in times of strife. Yeah, and I think we've seen that in our previous stories. I think that brings everything together quite nicely. I think we have actually seen that throughout our entire episode here, is the hobby helping people cope with shit interactions and shit times. We've had, a few really bad examples of horrid tournament stories, yes, but we've also seen the humanity that's in the hobby and the way that it brings people together. That's the side of the hobby that I choose to be a part of, that I choose to sit on and be like, okay, this is me now, mainly because I enjoy the game of 40k, don't get me wrong, but at the same time I much more prefer just having models and seeing them there and seeing them painted and stuff. It's not really my kind of I will play games with anybody, but it's not really what I do the hobby for. But anyway, you guys have been great, and some of these stories have been absolutely fantastic. We are continuing the theme of the hobby being a good force on Friday, where we're doing more Hobby Nightmares. Tomorrow I may be taking a day off to spend some time with my kid or do some other things, or I may do the Raven Guard video and finally record that, because the script is there ready to go. I may record that and upload it. We will see, but for now, I love you all a long time. If you like what I do, then please go and support Composite Games. They do a lot for the channel, making sure that I have toys to give away to you in terms of 40k stuff. I think the next one's going to be in November. The next prize draw is going to be in November. I'm keeping my eye on the money fund, because every single time you use the promo code Northern Exile down below, 5% of that gets kicked into the money fund, which goes on to get us some nice prizes for our things. So yeah, if you can, go and use Composite Games, go and use the promo code Northern Exile, and beyond that, subscribe to the channel. If you like what I do, the Patreon's down below, and you can become a member of the channel too. People ask me all the time, what's the best way to support you, mate? If you give me anything on Patreon, you can talk to me. I will talk to you back. I will even message you out of the blue from time to time, asking for your opinions on things. No worries, right? I will always be there. I'm not going to go anywhere. There is a Patreon tier thing on there. You don't need to do that to talk to me. Just make sure that you're a Patreon. You can talk to me at any point, all right? Anyway, speak to you guys next time. Have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you on Friday, probably. Have a good one.